There is no event in a company's history that is more fraught with nerves, excitement, and trepidation than the merging of two companies. Hey, Lisa Jackson here of Culture Pros, where we help companies change for the good of people, performance, and long-term growth. And in today's video, I want to discuss the primary reasons behind why, according to Harvard Business Review and my own experience, 70 to 90% of mergers fail to deliver the expected ROI. And there are some very simple things that you can do to change that statistic around and make yours a success. So let's dive in. When you think about the high failure rates that I just cited of mergers, and you think also that on average, they result in about 30% of voluntary attrition within the first year, and often that is unfortunately not the right people that you want leaving. There is no other company change that would pass board muster that would have these kind of statistics associated with it. There are also a lot of success stories behind this. Cisco, for example, the technology company, not the food distributor, has completed over 200 acquisitions to capture technology and talent. They've got their process pretty well down. They recognize that behind every great technology are people. And that both are required to ensure the acquisition success. It's really impressive that 87% of the employees that are part of Cisco's acquired companies are still with Cisco 2 years after the acquisition. I'm going to outline 3 success factors that really make a difference in having a successful merger. But before I do that, I want to outline why they fail. And there are several reasons, but there are a few core reasons that mergers fail. This is really widely accepted by the change management field, and certainly in my experience, they would hold up as well. So the first one I'm going to talk about I call social blindness. And this is where the acquiring party, and this is so common, we all do this. We all kind of enter a situation where we're excited about a change. Maybe it's a new job. That's probably the most relatable. Or you're dating someone, right? And hoping for that relationship to work out. And the inquiry party thinks, oh, they're just like us. This is really true when the deal has a lot of appeal, like if the technology or the synergy feels like it's really there. We start to map onto the people and the situation. Oh, this is gonna all just go very smoothly. We really like these people. They're just like us. There's not gonna be any real big speed bumps. And we'll just do the integration the way the deal makers are suggesting. We'll have an integration team, etc. That social blindness turns out to be a pretty massive blind spot. And I can talk about some of those examples later when I get to the solutions piece. So lack of proper people analysis. So rarely is proper due diligence given to what makes them successful. So what makes the company we're acquiring successful especially in terms of people prior to the deal being signed. Sometimes they'll just literally sort of figure out based on the org chart who stays and who goes, but not having really any understanding of who the key people are in the acquiring organization and what it is that they do that makes them tick. And how are you going to preserve that value? The third biggest thing that I see is something I call power towers. And this is where people inside, especially inside the acquired organization, start to just set up these basically large silos to retain control. And they may act cooperative, they may be demanded to be cooperative, but they'll set up these roadblocks and resistance to whatever is happening. And these silos actually end up breaking a lot of customer value down in a merger. Okay, so now let's take a look at 3 commitments. These are the moves that you can mitigate the failure rates of mergers. They are proven. They work really well. Hopefully you'll think about doing these prior to the deal falling apart or the merger not working. So number 1 is perform true cultural due diligence. So the deal makers are always going to focus on the numbers. They're going to focus on the mechanics of the deal. I think you're starting to see more and more organizations becoming aware of the importance of doing cultural due diligence. I know that I was contacted about the Sprint and T-Mobile merger about a year ago, where they wanted to do an upfront cultural assessment before the merger was even happening. This is good news. And so consideration for like how you're going to achieve buy-in and harmony from the people involved, who built the company, this is really mostly absent at the C-level. I worked with two post-merged cultures that were literally polar opposite. This was a New York headquarters versus an Oregon upstart. There was no surprise. They were miles apart on culture. The Oregon site had actually mounted a Mickey Mouse clock in their lobby 15 feet over the reception desk that had New York's time zone on it. And this was a very, very difficult scenario because it took for the first decade, the parent company left them alone and then came in and said, hey, we need each other to grow. But there was a massive amount of animosity between the two organizations. It took a lot of work to get them to a point where they actually even were willing to work together, let alone wanting to. So hire a neutral outsider to perform cultural due diligence. An expert will identify where you will mesh, where you won't mesh, where you're going to need to identify politics, turf wars, integration conflicts, and outright clashes. And this is going to be saving you a whole lot of headaches down the road. If you're planning layoffs, a significant number of staff in one or both companies, you don't want to wait years to start the conversation about how you integrate and evolve both cultures. And you can think about this as either, something where you're going to evolve both, you're going to preserve one more than the other, you're going to lay one on top of the other. It's usually some form of both are evolving, but just being clear about that upfront makes a huge difference. Commitment number 2. Declare a unifying purpose. So we all know how important why is to employee engagement, to employees feeling like they are part of something. You're seeing a whole generation that really responds to that. And so if you want to keep great talent, you're going to need to have a unifying purpose that's more than just making a whole ton of money. I suggest that leadership teams come together ahead of time and come up with a unified mission statement. This also starts to allow you to pre-mesh the two leadership teams and find out where they're the same and where they're different. Something that is incredibly important later on. You can do a DISC or a Myers-Briggs, but you come together to perform a very important task on behalf of the two combined organizations. You really find out a lot about each other in that type of process. Leaders who create a bond with the go forward leadership team signal a really strong vote of confidence that will definitely get the merger off on the right foot. And it also reveals key players' strengths on each side. So it's a really important step to take. Commitment number 3, leadership team social contract. You can think about this mostly as decision rights, and it behooves you to think about it in very concrete terms, such as that, who's making what decisions as we go forward. Culture alignment post-merger really does often boil down to that, who's making what decisions in each organization. And you'll hear a lot leaders saying, nothing's going to change. That's a lie, because it always does. And you've got leaders on either side thinking that they're the ones making the decision, acting in that way, but they're signaling very confusing messages that cascade downstream to people. And that ends up costing a lot of value in the merger. This dynamic can go on for years, making it really impossible to realize the true benefits of the merger. I worked with an organization where the CEO of the acquired company thought that he was basically going to be just left alone to run the business that he had been running for several years, just the way he had been running it. And the CEO of the new company didn't see it that way. And they never actually found common ground. That was from the get-go. We were brought in to help with that. We did a lot of work around that. But in the end, the two of them just did not see eye to eye at all. And that merger ended up being a massive failure. It's just not realistic or possible for nothing to change. And you have to go in with your eyes wide open on that. All right, so there's a few key elements of making mergers successful and helping to avoid the key failure areas that trip you up. I hope that you have found a few tips or nuggets useful. Please contact us if we can help you in any way with your pre-merger cultural due diligence. That's something that's an area of expertise for us. Thanks for watching today. Please subscribe to our channel for more informative videos on culture and change. We'll see you the next time.